In this episode, I want to talk about something that gets some of us really fired up. Many people have an opinion on this, and a lot of those people are very happy to share that opinion on forums and groups on the interweb. Neutral density graduated filters. But first, I need my morning drink. I haven't got time for this. I'm British. We don't even drink coffee for breakfast. Let's begin. There are the purists out there who insist that we should create as much of the final image as we can in camera. If there's a bright sky, we should balance that with the rest of the exposure using a graduated filter. They also believe the Earth is flat. They believe we should spend as much time as we can outside in the landscape that we're shooting and not be spending a lot of time on the computer. And you know what? I agree with that. I actually love spending time outside and playing with my filters and doing as much in camera. I do not have a problem with that. And then we've got those who say, take two exposures, one for the sky, one for the darker areas, and blend them on the computer. It's easier that way, you've got more control. Hey, if you like sitting in front of a computer, then good for you. Now let me be clear, I'm not taking sides here. I'm also not a brand ambassador for a filter company, so this is totally unbiased. You know, sometimes I like to use filters, sometimes I don't. If it's a beautiful warm sunny day and it's a fantastic location and I've got plenty of time, I'll use filters. If it's cold and rainy and I'm in a hurry, I'm on a client project and I'm rushing around, chances are I'll take the two exposures. It depends. What I want to do now though is talk about times when using graduated filters might not be such a good idea. Now just wait, don't get angry, just bear with me and watch, please. If you're shooting a view where the sky is 2 or 3 or more stops brighter than the rest of the image, a soft graduated filter is going to solve the problem. If your composition has a fairly flat horizon, then a hard grad is a good option to consider. If you have a view where an object, like a mountain peak, cuts up high into the sky, problems can arise. A graduated filter could work, but you may find you get a dark top to the object, which I think looks weird. The lighter the object, like a snow-capped mountain, the more this is an issue. You may be better off blending 2 layers instead. Urban scenes can be a particular challenge because things like buildings tend to be lighter and flatter coloured, so a graduation can be really noticeable. In this scenario, I would definitely take 2 exposures and blend rather than use a graduated filter. Theory is all well and good, but no replacement for experience. So the other day, I popped out to Dartmoor to conduct a real-life experiment. I found a couple of compositions, shot them 2 ways. One with a neutral density graduated filter and the other with a couple of exposures to blend together. The results were interesting. It was also an excuse to do a little bit of B-roll and music, because otherwise this video wouldn't have any. I mean, you've got to have B-roll. You need to see where I was shooting anyway. You need to see the, like, just watch this. In this composition, with the foreground rocks cutting off the top of the frame, I take an exposure for the rocks and foreground and a second exposure for the sky. These are basically unprocessed raw files. I then blend the 2 exposures together in Photoshop and add a little processing alchemy to bring the image to life. Now for one exposure using the graduated filter. As I slide it down, see how the sky gains some detail, but notice how the top of the rocks lose detail. I'll just apply some processing. I think both of those images work. There's just two different sort of finished looks to them, because the rocks in the foreground are very contrasty. There's light areas and dark areas, so you don't notice the graduated filter so much. You can see when we look at the two finished images side by side, we have a lot of dynamic range with the layered exposures and a little bit more creative freedom to work with. But the single exposure on the right there, the blacks are crushed and we don't have a lot of detail to work with or enhance. For this next composition, I do the same thing, two exposures and blend them together, applying a little bit of processing, and then an exposure using an ND grad filter. Look at the difference on this one. The bottom of the shot is similar on both images, but what a difference on the top of the rock. Those dark areas are totally crushed on the neutral density filter shot. I have to tell you, I spent a lot more time processing the shot with the neutral density filter than I did the layered image. There just wasn't the information to work with, and I had to really push the processing hard, and I think you can tell. You can see around the rocks here, when I try to bring out some details using tools like clarity, a white halo appears and the image breaks down. This is a common problem with over-processing and really should be avoided. So the argument that using filters cuts down your computer time indoors doesn't always hold up. So there you have it. Two approaches to that type of shot. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's whatever you prefer to get the final result that you're happy with. Now, if you're just thinking about getting into using neutral density filters, grad filters, I would recommend a 3-stop soft grad as a place to start. That's what this one is. That's what I used for this demonstration. It is a very good starting point. I've been using Lee filters for a long time. They are not sponsoring this. This is totally unbiased. There are lots of brands out there. I'm sure they're all as good as each other at the end of the day. But Lee, if you are watching, we could change that next time. You know, if you know what I mean. I'm done. Bye.